Welcome to our program, Women to Women. I'm Carol Paz, your hostess, and as always, we promise you a very special lady with a special background for all of us. But before I introduce her to you, I'd like to thank our sponsors for tonight's show, the first half, Villa Basque Deli and Cafe, right here in Carson City, home of Pete's famous Basque chorizo. It's made right on the premises, and it's delicious. We'd also like to thank Carpin Nevada LLC, importer of fine Portuguese olive oil, aged balsamic vinegar, and international health teas. And finally, last but not least, is carsonnow.org. When you want to know what's happening in Carson City, that is the place to go, carsonnow.org. So let's welcome our guest, Mary Fischer. Mary, thank you again for being with us. Okay. You know, this lady has made a very special effort. She has been spending, probably the past month and a half, 6 weeks, almost 2 months, in Alaska and the Aleutian Islands, and she could be headed right back there. So she gave us this time, and she's unique and she's very special. Mary, before we get into this wonderful program that you are a part of, and president, director, past president, past director, because you accomplished your goal,
yes,
all right?
Yeah, well.
Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you're from originally, where you grew up.
Well, I was born in Boise. I was, my mom, when I was 5, was diagnosed with TB, and so we moved to Denver to live with grandparents to take care of us. And she was in quarantine, which we're hearing a lot about now.
Yes.
She was in quarantine for 6 years.
Long time.
Yes, and we could only see her by waving to her from the up to the hospital window.
For 6 years?
For 6 years. For 6 years.
Mary, that's remarkable, because moving at 5 years of age until you were 11, and those are such crucial years for child, you know, for a child's relationship with their mother. But you must have had a great set of grandparents.
They were, my dad was really fantastic. My grandparents were great, because you have to figure that they were in their 60s, and 60 was a lot older then than it is now. And
Yes.
they did a good job. There was 3 of us. And so I was 6, my sister was 3, and there was a 9-month-old sister too. And so
Wow.
when we moved there, and they were, you know, I really give them credit now for having the fortitude and the willing spirit and everything to take care of us, because if it wasn't that, we would have been in an orphanage. And we all realized that.
And what a remarkable father,
Yes.
to stay stable and steady through that period of time for his family, his extended family.
Oh, yeah,
yes.
he was marvelous. Dad had his own business. He worked at it all day, and then every night he took dinner to Mom and sat with her for a couple of hours, and then he'd come home and he'd clean the house for Grandma, or he'll do something else. And
that speaks of a special relationship between your mom behind that window, and your father was allowed to go in with special clothing, or
well,
not?
I don't really know. I don't know that, or whether he was just permitted to go in because he'd already been exposed.
All right.
You know.
Yes.
Yeah,
Okay, so from Denver, then what happened?
well, after I was raised in Denver, and when Mom got out, we had our own home, and I went to East High, and then finally Mom got sick again, and we had to move back to Grandma's.
The TB returned?
She just wasn't well enough to handle it.
Okay.
And then she, later she came down with cancer, but this time she was just not well enough to handle her own home. And so then I transferred to South High and graduated from there.
From Denver?
From Denver.
Okay.
And went on scholarship to CU.
All right.
And the rest is sort of
The rest, okay.
what we've gone to.
Have you and your siblings remained close throughout the years?
We're closer now than we've ever been. And this was sort of, not so much because of us, it was always in the period of time when I was raised, you were really doing a good job raising the family if every child had their own room. My husband and I decided this was one of the things that was very, very important, that the kids never have a separate room. We had 4 kids, and 2 girls, 2 boys, and they each had their own room.
And that's interesting, that the standard of the day when you were growing up was that families hoped to be able to give each child
Yes.
their own room. And that kind of bespeaks of a sense of opulence, or a sense of wealth, or a sense of that much space inside a home that you could do that. And actually, it was a separating technique, it turned out to be, rather than a bringing a family together technique.
It really did.
Yes.
And we never had that much. I mean, we never thought about ourselves as being poor, but I know that every penny that was spent on a camp or on a lesson or something else was a very precious penny that was spent.
Okay.
So, but we had a great. I can't say anything wrong with my bringing up.
Oh no, 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 no. It's remarkable always as I speak with the guests and I'm listening to you, the challenges that families, because we didn't have back then the technology or the medical adaptations, the vaccines, the precursors or anything of vaccines for polio or for measles, etc. So it was pretty much a basic approach, and that's try to protect the other members of the family from the contagious effects.
Yeah.
So Mary, how did you wind up in Carson City?
Well, I met my husband in college and we were married. We had many job opportunities between the two of us, and I turned down my job opportunity because I was expecting a child 2 weeks after, found out 2 weeks after I accepted it.
Okay.
And so, and he was a civil engineer, and we were then working in Denver. We had been in California, we'd gone back to Denver, and they had a job offer to build the Reno-Sparks Freeway. And the contractor came to the office that he was working in, and he was working for that particular contractor, and said, anyone here want to move to Carson City? And he put up his hand. That was on a Tuesday, but we had to be in Carson City on Monday.
The following Monday.
The following Monday, we had to be in Carson City. So he came home and told me we were moving, and we were living in a mobile home. So we packed up the mobile home, packed up the truck, put all the play equipment in it. His folks came out from California to help us drive back because we had 2 children. No, we had 2 children then. And we drove back to Carson City, and we had to be through Utah by Saturday because we were over length. Ended up, he promised me we'd live in the trees, and so we were going to live at Lake Tahoe. And so we were up at the top of Lake Tahoe and found a space at Incline for our mobile home. And our daughter was just about 10 months old and running all over the place, our youngest.
Wow.
Ran into a motor on a
on
a boat and cut her eye open. Had 13 stitches. We had to run her off to Incline to get fixed. And we came back. The guy I think he was worried about liability, and he wouldn't rent to us. And so then we came down the hill. I came down with my father-in-law to find a place, and we ended up at Cottonwood, which we later bought and which is our business.
Okay. Rather dramatic entry into Nevada.
Yeah, and our husband went to work at 8 o'clock on Monday.
Good choice that you made when you turned down the job offer, 2 weeks after it being offered, finding out that you are expecting a child, because you were needed in the family. You didn't know it at the time, but to settle, to let the dust settle, and you were needed to keep things calm. Okay, now, I know that you have had a significant part of a program called GROW. Tell us what that was about. What does that stand for, GROW?
GROW stands for Gardeners Reclaiming Our Waysides. And the purpose of GROW is very, very simple. Is that we wanted naturalized plants and rocks to landscape the freeway, because as we had come here to build freeways, we knew, I was very much aware, that the fact that Nevada never landscaped their freeways, and their freeways were either weeds or erosion or scorched earth, because they used a lot of herbicides at that time. And so it was going to be close to our property, and we wanted to at least have something that looked nice. So this is what the mission of GROW was. That was the beginning of GROW.
Okay, so would you say that the fact that your husband was a civil engineer had come out here to help build the freeway, did that bring your interest because of your property being close to the freeway, that you wanted to establish something for everyone along that freeway?
Well, we were more aware of it, maybe altruistically, for ourselves.
Okay.
I mean, we were willing to landscape it ourselves if we had to. But it just evolved that nobody would let you do anything by yourself, because that's not the way you could work on state property.
Okay.
And so little by little, we finally paid for, before the organization got started, paid for a plan to how the freeway would look if it were landscaped, you know, with trees, just simple landscaping. And this was done by Tom Sully that had done the airport. So we were looking at xeriscape. And from that, because you needed something to talk to other people about. People cannot visualize things unless you have something to show them. And so this is the start of beginning to talk at the NDOT meetings, beginning to talk to different clubs and things like this. And finally, I was speaking with some Master Gardeners, and I had just finished the Master Gardener course a couple of years earlier. And I was talking to one of their classes, and from that, we began to get people that were interested, and you know, it went past 1, 2 more. And fact is, that's where we met. I met Marie Bresch and Jan Miller, who was with me the whole years. And this was started in 1997. Okay, this did not happen overnight.
No, it could not. Now, you have brought me a part of what that landscaping entails, which are these unusual, magnificent iron sculptured pieces that the deer, the eagle, the overpasses are full of Nevada history. And I want to talk to you about that, how that emerged as well. So don't go away. We'll be right back, okay, with this wonderful landscaping that all of us love.
Hi, I'm Stephen Lincoln with CarsonCityHomes.com, Carson City's original online real estate resource.
At CarsonCityHomes.com, you get effective and easy-to-use tools to help you select your next home today. With our easy-to-use website, you can search listings throughout Northern Nevada and narrow the results by selecting every facet, quirk, and quality you desire. Visit CarsonCityHomes.com.
I was 36, wanted to do something that was boldly different. We sold our house, drove west with the idea that we were going to be in the wine industry. We lived in a teepee for 2 months.
I mean, if you're going to do something, why not do it with your whole heart?
It's that creative outlet of being able to make something, and make something that comes from the land. Bank of the West said, we have complete faith in your brand. Don't do anything to compromise it. Banks don't say things like that.
Apex SCF provides cutting-edge, hands-on training that effectively addresses today's threats of violence.
The Apex Stay Alive course teaches proven methods for personal protection and attack countermeasures that can be applied in any environment. In your home, at the workplace, or on campus, Apex will teach you the necessary skills to stay alive, including how to recognize and react to an active shooter scenario.
If you knew you had to fight for your life tomorrow, would you train today? Contact us now to sign up for a class in your region.
Come to the Carson Horseshoe Club for fun and friendly service. Play your favorite games, join our Players Club where you get cash for points plus food comps, and enjoy casual dining in our Lucky Horse Grill. Get it all in the heart of downtown Carson City at the family-owned, local favorite Carson Horseshoe Club.
Welcome back to the second portion of our show, Women to Women. We're here with Mary Fischer, who has had just about every aspect with a mathematician's mind, putting together this unique art form that we find all along the freeway that comes from Reno right down into Carson City. And we're going to get back to that story in just a moment, but first I'd like to thank our sponsors for the second half. Dr. Kent Gabriel, MD, noted plastic surgeon right here in Carson City. Dr. Gabriel's specialty is microsurgery of the hands. We'd also like to thank the Carson Horseshoe Club, which is located in the historic district of Carson City. If you're thinking about having a light breakfast or a delicious filling breakfast, if you're looking to have a lunch, why not stop in and see their newly renovated dining area? We'd also like to thank the Bank of the West, which is a customer-friendly bank located right here in Carson City. When you walk in, they know your name. So let's return to Mary. Thank you again, Mary, for being with us. You know, I just want to show our viewing audience, because every time I travel the freeway, which is often for like most people, you see this magnificent eagle with the shadow, and you'll also see this great locomotive, and there's so much more. The deer, the overpasses, they're full of Nevada history. How did that aspect come about, Mary?
It probably came about sort of by accident in some ways, in that we had enough funds, and Lucy Joyce, the third landscape person that we had worked with from NDOT, the director there, was very animate almost to me that we should have hardscape as well as the softscape. And we
softscape and hardscape.
The landscaping, the softscape is the rocks and the trees and the flowers.
All right.
And the hardscape is the art.
All right.
And once that was decided that we had funds to do that, if we were careful, then we hired a designer. The first one was hired from Reno, and he ended up going out of business because of the recession and almost before we got started. And so we then hired Winston and company from Fort Collins, Colorado, which we had not intended to go out of state. The designer, the artist that worked with him, the freeway art person, was Mario, and I was really concerned about him because everything we'd seen was really very, very modern and things, and I could not see that going with Carson City. But when he came here, he was so steeped in history and so loved history that his ideas just caught fire.
Just flowed.
Yes, and one of the things that we had decided, and NDOT had decided with us, is that we wanted to have the artwork and the theme. We wanted to have a theme on the freeway, not to have something that was one thing at one gateway, another thing at another gateway.
Nothing disjointed.
Nothing disjointed.
Okay.
And we also decided that we would really like to, rather than using separate artists at each place, because that would distract from the theme, that we would try to use the same type of artwork all the way through.
Now, would this be Mario again all the way through?
Yes.
What's Mario's last name?
Echeverria.
Okay.
He is Basque.
Basque. All right. And that's a very important element here in this particular part of Nevada, isn't
it? Yes,
the
it
Basque
certainly
history
is.
and background.
And his ideas were great. And we must understand that GROW is responsible for all of the funding of the artwork from the highway, the Eagle, by the hospital, through the trains on Highway 50. And the second part of that funding for the rest of the landscaping for the rest of the freeway is from a transportation bill that was passed in 2002. We were served on the committee with Frankie Sue Del Pampa, then where 3% of all highway funds for building or renovation of a road will go for landscaping. And so this is the reason that there is a continuing fund now for landscaping.
To maintain.
All of the no, not necessarily maintaining it so much, but for having it to start with. And this is the reason Reno is doing more landscaping on their freeways. This is the reason that Elko is doing more landscaping on their freeways. And it's a very important thing that we must make certain that the highway department keeps in their budgets and don't put it back to asphalt like it has been before.
Okay, now question. So NDOT worked closely because it's state property that we're talking about. So NDOT, is there an overseer to make sure that the monies you're talking about are there?
Well, when we got the money, that would be the monies in the future. That will be, I think, the transportation department of the directors that are in NDOT then. The money that we had, we could not, of course, administer it because we're not a state agency. And the money was funded from the transportation bill of 2006.
Okay.
And we, with the help of Senator Harry Reid. And this was federal money so that since we were a private nonprofit entity, probably the first to be mentioned in a bill such as this, it had to be either administered by the city or by the state. And we worked with the city. The city had agreed several years before that if, it was a big if, we ever got funding, they would maintain it.
And this is Carson City.
This is Carson City. They never thought we would. And it was quite a joke when it came through. And so we had a stewardship agreement between Carson City and NDOT that they would administer the money. And Tom Grundy, who was the head of capital improvements at that time, was in charge of making certain that we kept track of every money. And we did come in within budget, which was really nice.
So the artist, and we're going to call him Mario, is of Basque origin. And because he was so steeped in the history of Nevada, he was able to capture the flavor and the westward movement over these overpasses. You see, in your mind, you visualize the movement of those animals, those carts, those people so beautifully.
Well, the theme of the theme was Carson City's history in motion. And we tried to, in every one of the overpasses and gateways, to depict some part of Carson City's history as it would apply to people moving, or animals moving, or things like that. And you probably have noticed more the overpasses and the eagle as you come in and the deer as you leave. But if you go to all the gateways, to Northgate, to Emerson, to Carmen, they have pictures and animals and little snippets of our history there. And when
the mining,
the
trains, the tracks.
Well, the stagecoach, the Pony Express, the Sam Davis Ranch, which was one of the first ranches on the north end of town, the 1919 convoy from that Lieutenant Colonel Eisenhower was part of as an observer on that probably helped, since he was always called the founder of the highway system, the interstate system. This probably had some bearing on him as they came across, and it took them all day to get from Fallon to here with lots of broken cars.
Okay, now I see the connection, because as I was growing up as a kid in the 50s and Eisenhower was president, he initiated this national highway system. And I always wondered, when I took a look at the military personnel that are there in the artwork, who that was referring to, and now I know.
Yeah, it was a convoy that was sent. They started in St. Louis, went to San Francisco to see how long it would take and if they could take military equipment across the country, and what did they need to improve in order to do this efficiently.
Okay, now maybe this question you can answer, and maybe you have to kind of surmise it, I don't know. But the artwork, the highway artwork in Reno is different in aspect, from my point of view as a viewer, as a tourist, or as a driver, than it is here in Carson. Would it also be different? Does it reflect, in other words, Reno's history? Like,
no.
This is, okay.
No, each town has the opportunity to do what they want.
I see. Okay.
I mean, and they can, I'm certain NDOT will make suggestions, as well as they take suggestions from the people in the community. And so this isn't anything that's set down. This was a theme that was developed just within Carson City with a lot of community input and working with between GROW and NDOT. And, you know, if we did not have a lot of community involvement, it would never have happened.
Where's Mario today?
He's in Fort Collins.
Okay,
and
so he made that special, did he?
He was hired to come out here and do this.
And he made these art forms here in Nevada?
No, he gave the drawing. This was all on drawings. They did the contract and the drawings. Really, except for Mario and the steel coming from out of state, almost and the plaques that we have, the story of each interchange or gateway on, everything else was done in this surrounding area. This was this first manufactured or made a lot of jobs during the summer. The
Certainly
painters,
did.
the sandblasters, the rapid construction was in charge of the whole project. The rock quarries, everything came from within this locale, and it was people that the people that live here were the ones that were working on it, and I think that made a big difference because they have pride. You know,
Oh, yes.
Everyone had pride that this. Well, do you know I worked on this? In fact, the pride went. There was one other thing that wasn't made here, and that was the ore carts. But the guy that made the ore carts was so enthralled that he got this order for these old-fashioned ore carts that when we had our open house and the ribbon cutting, he came from, it was Colorado. He made a special trip out here so that he could take part in the opening ceremonies and see his ore carts.
And that's pride.
That's pride.
That's pride in your
Lots of pride.
workmanship. Well, you know, Mary, I can only speak, you know, from my own heart, but I'm sure I am conveying to you the appreciation that we now have for Carson City in a very different way, the reflection of its history as we go along. I never fail to see them, and I never fail to look forward that when I'm leaving Carson going to Reno, I want to see the deer right there. My deer have, and I don't want anything to happen to them. I look for the eagle, I look for its shadow. So you have brought a delightful and a long-term legacy to this area because of your efforts.
Everyone working together.
And we thank you for coordinating. And when you told me off the show that you were mathematical, I can see now how it took that, your gift of mathematics and organization and fitting pieces together to bring it all about. So thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Okay. We hope you enjoyed the artwork just as I do. And what a sight Mary has when she travels it too, knowing she had a part in it. So thank you so much for being with us tonight. Stay well. Join us next week for a very special show. Good night.
Hi, I'm Genevieve Frederick, founder and executive director of Pets of the Homeless.
Pets of the Homeless is a nonprofit, all-volunteer organization that provides pet food and veterinary care to the homeless and less fortunate in local communities.
We're a national organization with over 200 collection sites across the United States, one in Australia and a few in Canada. Our national organization, since 2008, we've collected almost 50 tons of pet food that has been distributed through various organizations across the country, like food banks, homeless shelters, and soup dining rooms. With donations from the public, we are able to provide these kinds of wellness clinics across the country. Since 2008, our wellness clinics have provided over 2,500 animals with shots and medical care.
I'm Dr. Woody Allen. I'm a semi-retired veterinarian in Carson City, and I have worked with the Pets of the Homeless for about 4 or 5 years now. And when Genevieve Frederick started the program, our hospital was the first hospital to help her with collecting dog food and finding people that needed our help. On this website, you'll be able to find sources where you can get food on a regular basis if you need it.
With donations from the public, we're able to provide homeless shelters with crates, bowls, cleaning materials so that homeless with pets can come into homeless shelters and get the services that they need to get out of homelessness.
If you are in need of food, supplies, or services for your pet, or would like to donate or volunteer, visit petsofthehomeless.org.
In business for over 5 years, Play Your Own Music offers music lessons from the best quality music instructors in the area. We also offer band instrument rentals, guitar repair, and we have a recording studio on site. Call us at 885-PLAY.